Have you ever felt like there are these invisible forces kind of shaping your life, pulling you in directions you don't really want to go? Well, you're not wrong. Today, we're going to crack open the user manual for your brain, the one you never even knew you were missing. I mean, why do we do these things? We've all been there, right? Staring at a credit card bill that's just full of impulse buys, or watching the clock tick down on a huge deadline that we've just been ignoring for weeks. It feels like we're sabotaging ourselves, but what's really going on under the hood? Here's the thing, it boils down to this. A lot of the time, we're not actually the ones in control. We're being directed by these invisible scripts. But, and this is the good news, once you can actually see the strings, you can learn how to manage them. And that is exactly what we're going to get into. Our guide for this whole journey is the book The Mental Toolkit by Paulson Richard, and you should think of it less like some dry textbook and way more like a field guide to your own mind. It's just packed with the concepts, the scenarios, and most importantly, the actual tools to take back control. So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to break this down into 3 key areas. First, we're going to explore the tools for understanding your own inner world. Then, we'll move on to decoding your social dynamics. And finally, we'll cover how to really master your decisions. Okay, let's dive right in. All right, first up, let's talk about the battles we fight inside our own heads. These tools are all about self-awareness and getting a handle on those super frustrating internal challenges, starting with a really big one. The source material has this fascinating way of reframing this. We always think procrastination is about being lazy or just, bad with time. But it's not. It argues it's actually an emotional defense mechanism. We put off a task to avoid the feeling that comes with it. The fear of failure, the boredom, that nagging self-doubt. And this just perfectly illustrates the twisted logic our brain uses. See, it isn't about the task. It's all about protecting our ego. By creating an excuse, oh, I just ran out of time, we get to avoid confronting the possibility that, hey, maybe we're just not good enough. It's a short-term win for our ego that becomes a long-term loss for our potential. So how do we fight it? Well, not with some fancy planner, but with a super simple psychological trick, the 5-minute rule. The secret is to lower the bar so low that you just can't say no. Seriously, just commit to 5 minutes. That initial friction, that difficulty of just starting, that's the hardest part. Once you begin, you'll find that the action itself is what creates the motivation to keep going. Okay, so now that we've looked inward, let's zoom out and see how these mental models apply to how we interact with other people. How do we manage that delicate dance of human connection? The hedgehog effect is such a fantastic mental model for relationships. It actually comes from this old parable about hedgehogs in the winter. They need to huddle together for warmth, right? But if they get too close, they prick each other with their quills. If they stay too far apart, though, they freeze. So the whole struggle is finding that perfect, optimal distance. It's a really delicate balance. Get too close, and we can feel suffocated or controlled or just hurt by all those little frictions of intimacy. But if you stay too far apart, you feel isolated and lonely. It's this constant negotiation between our need for connection and our need for our own autonomy. The tool here is to actively manage that distance. First, you've got to know yourself. What are your quills? Is it constant texting? Is it unannounced visits? Then you communicate your need for space, not as a rejection, but as a way to preserve the relationship. The goal is to be emotionally close even when you're physically apart. Now for our final set of tools. These are going to help us navigate a world that is just full of choices and hidden biases that can so easily lead us astray. We always think more choice is better, don't we? Well, turns out that's wrong. The paradox of choice shows how having a ton of options can actually make us less happy. Just think about standing in the toothpaste aisle, completely overwhelmed. With too many choices, we just freeze up. And even when we finally do pick one, we're haunted by this fear that we might have made the wrong choice. So the solution is to actually change your goal. Don't be a maximizer trying to find the absolute perfect best option. Instead, become a satisficer. What this means is you define your criteria before you even look at the options, and then you just pick the first thing that checks all the boxes. And maybe most importantly, once you've decided, don't look back, just move on. Oh, and here's another huge decision-making trap, the Dunning-Kruger effect. This visual of Mount Stupid is just unforgettable. It shows that when we know just a tiny bit about a topic, our confidence shoots through the roof. We're actually too incompetent to even see our own incompetence. Meanwhile, true experts, they're often plagued by self-doubt because they know just how much they don't know.
So the tool to escape Mount Stupid is, you guessed it, humility. You have to adopt a beginner's mind. If you feel 100% confident about something complex, that should be a massive red flag. Actively go out and seek criticism. Ask people, what's wrong with this? Not, hey, is this good? You have to remember, the more you truly learn, the more you realize how little you actually know.
So, we've looked at our inner world, our social dynamics, and our decision making. So, what's the big takeaway here? Well, it's all about empowerment. It's about moving from being a puppet to being the architect of your own mind. And this is really the core message from the source material. Understanding these psychological effects isn't just some intellectual exercise, it's a form of self-defense. Once you can name the Dunning-Kruger effect, you're way less likely to fall for it. Once you understand what procrastination really is, you can actually start to manage it. And this just brings it all home, doesn't it? These cognitive biases and these emotional habits, they only have power over us because they operate in the dark. The entire point of building a mental toolkit is to bring them out into the light. By seeing them, by naming them, by understanding them, we rob them of their power. So, I'll leave you with this question. You've now seen some of the strings that might be pulling you around. You've been given the first few tools for your toolkit. So the only question left is, which script are you going to choose to rewrite first?